在3月19日，我成功接种了陈薇院士研发的新冠疫苗。陈薇院士好。
大陆洪水肆虐，淹没大面积农田和民宅，百姓生存艰难。
你看一下，这稻子全部发芽了。你们看一下，这个黄色的稻子全部发芽了，今年亏死了。
大陆多地持续降雨，水稻被淹发芽，没法收割，农户损失无法估量。
扔掉我，一晚又积的，站在这里发芽了，这个稻子全部芽了，亏死了。
2020年9月27号，中华人民共和国国家信访总局然后签名依法上马。
网友拍摄居民进入某小区前排队进行人脸识别，中共监控无所不在。中共用红旗洗脑武汉民众，继续其精神意识控制。
那他宣传自由平等就可以啊！如果我摸你任何市民举说我要自由平等，马上把你抓了，就是这样。
有一个叫《人与人》的节目，就是一边主持一边演小品。我正好是个化学呀，然后就自如的不得了，当时就拍板定了我了，上综艺大观。那个时候我根本就不知道什么叫直播，什么叫
对，那时候是直播。
1个月之后，我就主持了春节联欢晚会，而且是一位主角，在那个晚会上我力挽狂澜，好几次抢救了导演。为什么呢？给我念4封电报，拿上来就一张纸，底下都是空白的。
这是一封来自南沙群岛的电报，电文是这样的：我们是驻守在南沙群岛的海军官兵，虽然与首都北京远隔万里，但是中央电视台春节联欢晚会的精彩节目，把我们同祖国人民紧紧地连在一起。
哎呀，我真是会胡编乱造，
会编。
幸亏读了点书，知道红旗拉普。我说，此时此刻我们在红旗拉普，守卫着祖国的边疆，希望祖国人民幸福安康。这第一封，
第二封又是白的，
又空白的，就是白纸。我就说，儿童说过年啊，真高兴，我们快乐的给爷爷奶奶拜年。哇，迅速第2年就又用了我了。
当然了，
后来就是
连用13年
，13年。
但凡是上来的是白纸的，就一定是交给倪萍。
对。
看你们好多知识分子都在美国、英国训练的啊，一天到晚讲那个民主啊、自由啊，那玩意儿没什么用，知道吗？你没有工业就没有就业吗？对不对？没有就业就没有教育啊！你投个什么票啊？这不是瞎搞吗？这个，这是一个 poison， 那是个毒药，知道吗？完全是害人的嘛！这个，你的饭都不给人家吃，教育也没有啊！你说啊，去投票都解决了，那不是害人吗？那个。是不是这是邪教啊？这是邪教，真是邪教啊！
中共红色标语洗脑国人，欲延续其集权统治。中共官媒抹黑美国，意图掩饰其纽约总领馆恶行。英国自然周刊被收买，掩盖中共在生态环境中的严重破坏。中共军队演练城镇攻防，为镇压百姓抗议做准备。中共病毒让印度恐慌，感染人数急剧增加。 中共外长王毅对外宣传大陆的发展中国家位置，意图隐藏中共统治世界的野心。近日，路德社爆料名人后，大陆网友讨论热烈，暗示爆料革命在墙内信息传递成功。9月26日，爆料革命多位战友在中共自媒体黄河边的住处抗议，当地警方为附近邻居解释战友行为。
down the CCP, take down the CCP, 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 take down the 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 CCP, 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 take down the CCP, take down the CCP, take down the CCP. Take down the CCP, take down the CCP. Follow me and I'ma set us free. Take down the CCP.
Let me tell you what I've been through, baby. Lived a life that was hella unfair. Seen things that been driving me crazy. In a country where the leaders don't care. Didn't think we had the courage to change it. Tore it down and they weren't prepared. Everything that they kept us from saying. Now we talking.
Many people who test positive for COVID-19 survive. However, there could still be health difficulties that they face afterwards. Some could experience long-term health effects, but lingering issues can be severe in certain cases.
Nowhere near my normal self.
Michael Regan was a healthy, athletic 50-year-old when he was struck with coronavirus back in March. The virus itself body-slammed him. He says he spent 2 months in and out of the hospital. But tonight, more than 4 months after he began to recover, Regan tells CNN he still feels horrible, lingering effects, like seizures, heart problems, nerve damage known as neuropathy, and even memory loss. Indeed, experts say there could be hundreds of thousands of so-called long haulers like Regan, experiencing medical problems they didn't have before getting COVID, problems which have lasted for months. And America's top voice on infectious disease now warns some COVID survivors could experience those problems for the rest of their lives.
While the media continues to slam hydroxychloroquine for treatment of the coronavirus, scientists say countries which use the drug to treat malaria have a shockingly low number of cases. That includes countries in Africa, which doctors had predicted would be some of the hardest hit regions in the world. For example, South Africa has a total of 630,000 cases of coronavirus and just 15,000 deaths, compared to the nearly 200,000 recorded in the United States. According to the numbers, Africa is actually doing better than anywhere else in the world, and that's despite most of the continent being heavily impoverished and major overcrowding in densely populated cities, all of which should be recipes for a serious outbreak of coronavirus. Doctors have speculated that in countries where hydroxychloroquine is taken to protect against diseases like malaria, which includes much of Africa, the severity of coronavirus would be much lower. And so far, that appears to be proving true. With a population of 45 million people, Uganda is another good example. The country has the 6th highest number of annual malaria deaths and has been treating malaria and coronavirus with a combination of zinc, azithromycin, and, of course, hydroxychloroquine. As a result, there have been less than 4,000 coronavirus cases in total and only 44 deaths. 44 deaths out of 45 million people practicing no social distancing whatsoever.
The Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, has long sought to subvert America. A number of the groups involved in recent riots have ideological ties to Beijing. But what are the deeper connections? According to Heritage Foundation senior fellow Mike Gonzalez, the Black Futures Lab, closely linked to the Black Lives Matter global movement, is being funded by an openly pro-CCP group.
And the Black Futures Lab, if you go to the donate button, says that the money you give will go to the Chinese Progressive Association of San Francisco.
He stood up to China for the first time in 40 years. and put tariffs on Chinese goods to require them to treat us fairly, to stop stealing American high tech, to stop stealing our intellectual property, to stop dumping goods in the U.S., to stop manipulating their currency. So he stood up to the Chinese, and we ended up with a phase 1 trade deal.
O'Brien says he's optimistic that so long as President Trump gets a second term, a phase 2 deal with China is absolutely on the horizon.
So he's taken a very hard line with countries realizing this is who they are, this is what they are, and we're going to stand up to them. We're not just going to threaten them, we're not just going to have rhetoric, we're going to have real action. It's been a long year and it's been a tough year, but I think if you focus on what the president has done just in the past year in his foreign policy, the wins he's achieved for this country and for the world, it's really been terrific. And I've been honored to serve with him.
Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano. He was the ambassador to the United States for the Vatican for 5 years. He knows the United States. He knows the political forces in the United States. He, in a letter to the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast and to Trump, said that Trump is preparing to fight the demonic forces of the deep state and the deep church. And he is calling this, Vigano is calling this an epical challenge, a challenge not just for the United States, but a biblical challenge for the world. And he is begging, it's almost like a battle hymn of the Republic, a battle cry for the Republic, a sermon on the Mount. And I would urge your listeners to read the article in LifeSite News that came out yesterday from Vigano. And he is saying that the presidential elections in November represent an outcome that is so decisive that it will determine the future of the world, and that President Trump is preparing to fight the demonic forces. And Vigano understands who Biden is. He understands the connection and alliance of the deep state in the United States and the deep church that are aligning to trying to defeat Donald Trump, who is representing the children of light, as Vigano calls them, against the children of darkness. He could not make this this cry for Catholics to pay attention, to take up arms, whether it's the rosary, prayer, getting involved in the election. Vigano understands what is at stake. And interestingly, Steve, Vigano praised Secretary Pompeo for going after the Vatican in its renewal of its secret deal with the CCP. Vigano also alleges, which I thought was fascinating, that the Jesuits, of whom our Pope Francis is a Jesuit, have received $2 million in the last 4 years from George Soros. Additionally, Vigano acknowledges the alleged bribe finance support from the CCP to the Vatican, $2 billion every year, which Milesguo had first alerted the world to. So we know what's coming. We know what's coming from the Vatican. The Vatican is rolling out in October a green encyclical, which is going to go after and support the globalists. It's going to go after President Trump. This is a an encyclical which is going to dilute dogma, elevate environmentalism, and green light globalism. These are all the events that are going to be just reeling the country, not only our election, but also having the support of the deep church in the person of Pope Francis, who is signing an agreement with the CCP, not only to renew this horrible agreement, but continue the ongoing persecution of Christians, of Uyghurs, of Catholics that's been going on for the last 2 years since the CCP signed this agreement with the Vatican. It's going to be a roller coaster. We've got to buckle up and ride this wave and to be behind the president. And I would urge everyone, every citizen of the United States, to read that letter from Vigano that's in LifeSite News that was published yesterday, and to understand that this is global forces, Steve, global forces, as you pointed out early on, that are coming to try and take down Trump, who is, as he always says, I'm the one person that's standing between you and them. And we have to be aware that this is a biblical battle. And every single one of us has a role to play. And we have seen in the last month, we have seen the China Tribunal, a bipartisan investigation that spelled out all the genocide of the CCP against the Uyghurs. There recently was a huge report, the data report on Xinjiang, which is spelling out the almost 400 detention camps by the CCP that have been built in the last 4 years to torture and re-educate and intimidate the Uyghurs in China. What is happening is very clearly dark against light. And we have to align with our president. We have to align with Archbishop Vigano.
I want to jump in here for a second. Remember, we don't believe in any conspiracy theories. There's no conspiracies, okay? But there are also no coincidences. The reason it's not a conspiracy, it's up in your grill, right? Just like the plot to steal the 2020 election. Now they're all running around saying, oh, we were just pretending. We were just doing some more games. We outed what they're trying to do, and we're going to out it every day. And now they're running around saying, oh, banning these guys, all these crazies are, misconstruing our words. Nonsense. You were caught. You were found. The same thing here. Archbishop Vigano was the papal nuncio. He was one of the most respected guys here in the United States. And now you see, and I think one of the key parts here was Milesguo bringing me up on this show, I think it was 3 months ago, that, hey, the reason the Vatican did it, they took the cash. They're taking $2 billion a year. Archbishop Vigano reinforces that. And here's the thing, the Vatican's never denied it. Never come out and denied it at all. They weren't taking cash from the Chinese Communist Party, right? So this is when people, I think the shocking thing, Liz, is people have seen that they've infiltrated Wall Street. They've infiltrated our corporations. They've infiltrated Hollywood. They've infiltrated Silicon Valley. The stunning thing is, how did they possibly infiltrate the Catholic Church to a degree that the Catholic Church is essentially on the payroll and is part of the big cultural institutions now aligned against the forces of religious freedom? How did that happen, Liz? We got about 2 minutes. How do you think that happened?
Well, Steve, it's been happening for 50 years since the infiltration of Ted McCarrick as a power broker for the globalists. He's been financing the global agenda. He's been placing his own bishops, cardinals into the Catholic Church. This has been an infiltration that has been planned way before, actually, Vatican II in the 1950s, when Bella Dodd in 1929 talked about infiltrating communists into the Catholic Church. And here we are at this epical moment in 2020 when the globalists have planned all along. This is the moment that we are going to unroll our agenda. And, give the devil his due. The Vatican has been bought off by the globalists. And interestingly, Jeff Sachs of the UN, the largest globalist, has been parked at the Vatican for the last 5 years. And now we hear that he's going to be the head of the Lancet Commission on the COVID. And I've looked at that commission, And what's going to happen is we have 5 of Saks' employees.
我请问大家战友们，你们有没有问过一句话？郭文贵，你骂；爆料革命战友，你骂，抢你的饭碗了，影响你搞政绩了，啊，影响你搞募捐了，行吗？你骂应该行吗？都是对的。阎立梦英雄科学家招你惹你了，阎立梦科学家招你惹你了，你骂他，只有一个原因，你砸阎立梦英雄科学家。那就是你吃共产党的饭，拿了共产党的钱，你在做坏良心的事情。我们的英雄科学家在拯救全人类，你干嘛骂他呢？这是个起码的常识啊，战友们呐。所以，战友们，如果说我们这个全球灭贼，你看成是狭隘的个人主义，那你就真的是错了。它的意义重大，绝不能让过去30年。任何有良知、有正义的中国人站出来说话的时候，都要被消灭，都要被欺民贼，因为拿共产党的小钱，吃了共产党的屎，就把好人全消灭。英雄科学家是我们中国这过去100年没出来的世界上最有影响力的一个女性，最得到西方认可的形象的女性，真正的为了正义失去劲的女性。严格讲，她是在世界上可能造成人类大劫难、全球反华、全球灭华的关键时刻出来了这么一个女英雄，她真是我们的雅典娜。雅典娜女神，就是因为这雅典娜女神，这帮王八蛋吴建民、王流子、黄河边陈文健、向林、咸鸭蛋、朱万丽、胡平啊、熊宪民、孟维川、郭宝胜啊，还有滕彪啊、夏叶良、火鸡拱、龚小夏这帮畜生集体杀他，天理何容啊！我们要再不出面，这个英雄科学家就变成他们所说的又是骗子了。只要砸共产党的，只要说真话的，全是骗子。到底谁是骗子，战友们？如果我们在西方的世界都不能证明谁是骗子，什么是人民假，我们配说搞新中国联邦吗？我们配说搞爆料革命吗？
以色列在24小时内的新增感染再创新高，缅甸境内感染病例激增，使得仰光受到压力。美国现有700万感染病例，至少20万5千例死亡。英国科学家建议局部锁定的方法来缓解病毒感染。佛罗里达州的酒吧和餐馆再次完全开放。日本记录了超过600例新病例，为2周以来最高。墨尔本因感染病例下降而放宽了封锁措施。尽管存在疑虑，中国仍紧急推广使用国产疫苗。美国以其运用于军事的风险为理由，对中国芯片制造商中芯国际实施出口限制。